Seems I've been having some audio issues lately. Let's see if I got it worked out now. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Is it working for everybody? Testing. 1, 2. Freddy's coming for you. My top 10 Wes Craven films coming right at you. Stick around. Yeah! What's happening, fellow den dwellers? My name is Scott. Thanks for joining me here in my movie den. Before I get into today's video, I just want to address some of the audio issues I've been having lately. And if you're watching any of my videos, you've noticed the somewhat atrocious audio that's going in there. Look, I'm new at this whole YouTube thing. Didn't really know what the fuck I was doing when I get into it. I just wanted to do it. So it's definitely been a learning process as I go. I'm learning new things every day, like how to fix the damn audio, and I did. So here we are. If you got any tips about anything you've seen or anything in the 80s, and I watched a lot of horror movies in the 80s, and the two that stood out the most to me were John Carpenter and Wes Craven. Now, Craven was one of the most influential pioneers and masters in the horror genre due to the pop cultural impact his films had. You know, mixing horror cliches with humor and satire. You know, his work does tend to explore the breakdown of the family structure, the nature of dreams and reality, and often feature black humor in those satirical moments. Say like civilized family succumbing to and then eventually committing horrific acts of violence, like in Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. So these are going to be the 10 films that stood out to me over the years. Most of these I've seen more than others, and some of these have even bounced around on my list a little bit, but here we go. Number 10 is The Serpent and the Rainbow. This stars the most awesome Bill Paxton. It was written by Richard Maxwell and Adam Rodman and is loosely based on a book of the same name by botanist Wade Davis. In the book, Davis recounts his experiences in Haiti investigating a local native who was allegedly poisoned, then buried alive, and then revived by some herbal brew, which turned him into some kind of zombie. I was pleasantly surprised with how well I liked this movie. I love how this movie feels, being more on the ends of a psychological horror than the physical horror you would usually get from Wes Craven. Pullman does a particularly well job with the role that could too easily have turned him into a clueless, arrogant American. It's very creative and visually stunning, but it is a bit dated. It mixes fantasy and reality in a magical way that will keep your attention. It's creepy, it's fascinating, a little scary, but I've been a fan of this movie for years. Number 9 is The Hills Have Eyes. Now, this film follows a suburban family as they're being stalked by a family of cannibals when they break down in the Nevada desert. Now, Wes Craven loosely based the script on a Scottish cannibal legend, and he believed it illustrated how a civilized, normal person can become a savage. Now, there's little to no blood in this, but there's enough implied and portrayed violence to keep the most callous of horror fans happy. Although the tight ending does prevent us from dwelling too much on the shock. The shock is mainly derived from the almost too realistic portrayal of the middle-class redneck families, slow and steady demise by the primitive clan. I preferred the remake, honestly, because it had a little more violence, but Craven did give me a lot of great and exciting moments in this thing. Even with as little gore or violence it had, there was plenty there to keep me happy in the end. Number 8 is Curse. Now, Curse has a pretty lousy reputation, and while I won't say that some of it isn't earned, I found it to be better than I expected it to be. It brought back Kevin Williamson and Wes after Scream, and they tried to do with Cursed and werewolves like they did with Scream and slashers. Like most of Kevin Williamson's scripts, his movie is packed jam full of pop cultural references, in-jokes, and it's a lot of fun watching it. It plays fast and loose with the conventions of traditional werewolf films. The story concerns a brother and sister, played by the ever-awesome Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg, who are bitten by a wolf. And what ensues, of course, is the two siblings experiencing the strange precursors to going full-on wolfy. Like smelling blood, waking up naked in the yard, that kind of thing. But what's more interesting is the classic Williamson whodunit that is spread throughout this movie. Who's the werewolf? Where'd the curse begin? And with who? We are given many possibilities in here. Additionally, Curse takes one tried and true trope of movies involving outcasts and turns it upside down. The cast is all in it, and Wes Craven directs it really well. I can't say it's one of my favorite werewolf movies, but it's definitely a very entertaining Wes Craven film. Number 7 is The People Under the Stairs. This is about a young boy and 2 adult robbers who break into the house of a neighbor's landlord to steal their coins. The young boy discovers a dark secret about the family and what's lurking in their house. Held aloft by gonzo black comedy and socially conscious subtext, it marks a unique, though wildly uneven, change of pace for Wes Craven. This is just a fun piece of film that definitely entertains, and while it doesn't necessarily make you think, it does offer lots of food for thought for those of us who enjoy the deeper messages of horror films. It does deal with some pretty heavy subject matter. It's just a weird mixture of child abuse, comedy, and a few other things thrown in. It finds a way to actually fit into the world. It's about something that can and has actually happened, but still being fantastical. Balances being the goofy and the darkly serious at the same time. Does it well. This was a great example of Wes Craven's work as an iconic director when it comes to blending horror and that dark comedy. I believe that this is Wes Craven's most underappreciated film. It's a careful synthesis of genres, steeped in horror, with a satirical bite and a little action and thriller thrown in. Number 6 is The Last House on the Left. This is Wes Craven's first written and directed film, and it's still one of the grittiest and hardest to watch, even 40 years later, guys. This is this tale of a teenager who is kidnapped, beaten, raped, and ultimately killed, and then her parents exacting revenge. Threw up a bunch of questions about morals, film censorship, and what is and isn't acceptable to show in films of the time. Last House on the Left is not for everyone. From its original marketing campaign back in the day, it was very clear what this film was setting out to be. And it does a really remarkable job of doing it. The acting by the 2 young girls and the evil gang members, not so bad in the whole. But the film is very inconsistent and flawed. Doesn't mean it's a really bad movie. I mean, like I said, it's gritty, hard to watch. I've seen it a couple times, but nothing I'm rushing out to see again. It gets quite jarring at times because it jumps from like violence and then to some kind of comedy. So it jolts you back and forth a little bit in that, but definitely worth checking out. Number 5 is Shocker, about a TV repairman who is sentenced to death for a series of grisly murders. But it's after his execution by the electric chair that the trouble really starts. He made a deal with the devil before he died, and now he's this living, evil energy source that travels through electrical currents, come out your TV set. It's a classic 80s horror thriller. It's memorable. Maybe not as memorable as Nightmare on Elm Street, but definitely I remember it. The story is good no matter how far-fetched it is. It's fun. The cast is very good. Mitch Pileggi as Horace is the standout. The effects are classic old school with plenty of blood and violence. This movie really is fun to watch. Bends all horror rules while still bringing something new and fresh. And to me, it'll always be a classic. Number 4 is Deadly Friend. This story is based on a 1985 novel Friend by Diane Henstall. Follows a teenage computer prodigy who implants a robot's processor into the brain of his teenage neighbor, played by Christy Swanson, after she's pronounced brain dead after falling down some stairs. The experiment proves to be successful, but she swiftly begins a killing spree in her neighborhood. And for the life of me, I just don't know how this incredible genius horror film has proven to both be underrated and criminally overlooked. This one is mid-range for Craven, but it has efficient storytelling. It's got good performances, several truly memorable effect sequences like the basketball death scene, worth the look alone. BB is without a doubt a lovable and fun robot. So what happens to him later on in the film is quite sad. The ending, however, could have turned out way better than it did. Other than that, it's just a great solid horror slasher that anyone who loves truly unique horror films, who loves Wes Craven, or just loves great classic 80s horror movies, is sure to love this film as much as I did. Number 3 is The Walking Vegetable with a Heart, and that's Swamp Thing. Now, I love this movie, and I have since my childhood, though it is obviously deeply flawed. This movie was obviously given no budget, and you can tell by the rubber monster suits. This is a movie that delivers insanity with such a poker face that it's hard to determine whether you're watching something intentionally silly or not. The movie plays like a well-read comic book. The action is non-stop. The standout performance is Adrienne Barbeau's young little sidekick who has swamp smarts and helps her and Swamp Thing out of their predicament. Swamp Thing is the most fun I had watching a guy in a rubber suit. It's great. Check it out. One of my favorites. At number 2, we have Scream. Neve Campbell leads an all-star cast in this iconic slasher thriller that launched the Scream franchise and breathed new life into the horror genre. What can I say about Scream? Everyone knows Scream. Between Kevin Williams' phenomenal writing skills and Wes Craven's ability to bring that said writing to life so effortlessly, this film is sure to keep you on your toes. It takes horror movie standards to a new level by recognizing the status quo of the horror film industry and flipping it upside down. This movie was not only iconic, but it single-handedly changed the horror industry as a whole. Suspenseful, self-aware, and hilariously scary, Scream is a delight for film and horror buffs alike. It's probably nobody's surprise what my number 1 film is, and that's A Nightmare on Elm Street. And this introduced us to the child-murdering serial killer turned dream demon serial killer. Now, this movie has become a classic of the horror film genre, spawning several successful sequels, while introducing us to one of the greatest movie villain of all time, Freddy Krueger. And Wes Craven created one forward-thinking gem of a slasher while sprinkling in some supernatural elements. And he created a serial killer who's tough to beat because he can kill you in your dreams. The score is special and quite nerve-inducing the way it can sound. It's slightly eerie yet calm, and then it's frightening at other times. And the special effects are still good. I mean, it's a true classic that continues to find new fans in every generation. That's it for my top 10 Wes Craven films. What's your favorite Craven film? What stood out to you on the list? Hit me up in the comments below. Let me know if you're new to the channel. Help us get to 100 subscribers. Yes, I know I'm new here. We're at 88 now. But you can help us climb. You can help this channel grow by subscribing. Hit that notification bell on the way out to receive future content notifications. And please share with your friends and family. Again, I'm Scott. This is The Movie Den. We'll see you on the next one.